we're going to start in the beginning. So she got right to
more questions. So many more questions that I have about Kamala and her true heritage. Also, she's once again been asked about her racial identity. This happened just 3 days ago. And suddenly she's a little iffy on the answer. Kamala and me are now in a very particular kind of relationship. I'm like Maury. And
so let me say again, Candace Owens is not the person that you want researching you if you are lying about something or misleading people. She's not the person that you want researching you. And now it seems as if Kamala's camp is obviously aware of Candace Owens, but it seems as if now they're starting to get a little nervous and respond to what Candace Owens is saying. And I'm to the point where so when Candace Owens first started introducing this, when Janet Jackson, I should say, said that, oh, I heard Kamala's white, she's not black. And a lot of people may be wondering, like, well, what does it matter? What does it matter? You know, what matters is the fact that when you have people that are pushing us to do something just because somebody's black, and you have a candidate, in my opinion, that is, I would say that I'm 60 to 70% now convinced that she lied about her heritage. I'm 60 to 70%. And if you'll lie about that, it's just like the lady that was lying in the NAACP, the president of that, Rachel, whatever her name is, I forget her name. Somebody remind me her name, was lying about her background. She was a white woman and she lied about being black. Like, it just says a lot about you. You don't need to lie. You don't need to lie. And matter of fact, I was having this convo the other day, and maybe we even mentioned it on the show on Wednesday. The fact that if this is true, the fact that if it becomes a fact, then that fact that she's lying to try to portray herself as black may be all the evidence that we need to support America is no longer racist. I don't know. I'm just saying that. Would y'all say that? Because if somebody's trying to be black to increase their chances in becoming president of the United States, the leader of the free world, right? The best job in the world, I don't know. And when I say best, I mean the most important, the most critical. Obviously, we know that there's puppet masters, you know, pulling the puppet strings of all these politicians. But when it comes to if you were trying to get a job, if you're trying to putting in your application and applying for a job, I believe president of the United States would be the highest position that you could apply for. So once again, Candace Owens is on top of this, and we're going to see how it all plays out. But to me, it's just kind of funny, the irony. And, you know, the same party that says, oh, it's racist and embraces all this victimhood and tries to convince us that if the other side wins, then we're going to be in chains and shackles. That very same party has a candidate that may be lying about being black, so it increases their chances to become president of the United States. So let's get into it.
And she's essentially my guest. I'm asking her a question. Kamala,
$3
during your run as president, we asked you if your genealogy was actually Irish Indian.
You said no. The lie detector determined that was a lie.
Oh! Welcome back to Candace. And where to begin? Okay, so 2 days ago or 3 days ago, Kamala was asked again about her black heritage, and suddenly she is getting a little iffy on the details. You can see she does not want to engage in the conversation, and the answer that she actually gives is fantastic. It is just fantastic, and we need to now pick it apart. So she appeared on a show called All the Smoke, and she was interviewed by the hosts, which are former NBA players Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson. I want you to pay very close attention to her answer here. Take a listen.
What do you think when you hear people kind of questioning just the fabric of who you are?
Well, one, I don't listen to it. Okay. I'm really clear about who I am, and if anybody else is not, they need to go through their own level of therapy. That's not my issue.
Their issues, right?
My mother was very clear. She was raising two black girls to be two proud black women.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the same moms that put Caucasian on her on Kamala's birth certificate as far as the mother's race. And we just showed you last week or Wednesday, when Judge Joe Brown, he said that he met Kamala Harris's dad, fine gentleman, but he says very clearly that he's not black, that he's Irish and Hindu. I don't know. Somebody correct me. I thought Hindu was a religion, but maybe that's a culture as well. Is it a Jewish type of thing where it's a religion, but it may also be a group's as far as their ethnicity that they identify with? I don't know, but let's keep going.
And it was never a question. Mm-hmm. You know, it's funny because over the years, journalists, some, not most, will want to talk about it. And I say, okay, if you want to have this conversation, I'm prepared to have it, but sit down and get comfortable for a few hours. Mm-hmm. If you want to start.
Imagine being asked if you're black. Shy, you're a lighter skinned woman, black woman. Imagine somebody asking you like, hey, are you black? Or, I mean, if somebody asked me if I'm black, I'd be like, yeah, my mom's black and my dad's black. I'm black. If somebody asked me like, hey, do you have a Native American heritage? I'm gonna say, yeah, through my mother. And this is the connection through my grandmother. You know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily take a very long time to explain, but listen to how she finesses this like a politician would, as far as people wondering, are you black?
Black women. Mm-hmm. And that was anybody else's not. They need to go through their own level of therapy. That's not my issue.
Their issues, right.
My mother was very clear. She was raising two black girls to be two proud black women. Mm-hmm. And it was never a question. Mm-hmm. You know, it's funny because over the years.
And I got to say it, but it just is what it is. When we talk about America being a racist country and all this caste system, I've never been to India, but the things that I've heard, they have a very extreme caste system, a lot of racism when it comes to the color of your skin, whether you're darker or lighter. And I've heard different things on different shows. This is not anything that you give me a source. I'm not going to give you a source. Maybe you guys have heard these things as well. But when it comes to certain cultures, marrying a black man is not the thing that's going to happen. And I believe that's prevalent in India's culture. So neither here nor there. Doesn't mean that Kamala's mom didn't want to marry a black man. But as far as what she's saying, as my mom, you know, being proud, raising two proud black, seems pretty convenient, but maybe she's right.
Journalists, some, not most, will want to talk about it. And I say, okay, if you want to have this conversation, I'm prepared to have it, but sit down and get comfortable for
That's
a few
fact,
hours.
Cuzzo. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, yeah.
If you want to start talking about race in America, mm-hmm. You want to talk about.
Matter of fact, yo, Cuzzo, that's a fact. All right, so your son, blonde hair, blue eyes, right? Blonde hair, blue eyes. I assume got those traits, obviously, from his mother. So when somebody asked your son, hey, are you black? Are you white? How are you black? I don't think it's going to take very long for him to say, oh, my dad's black. Very simple, right? It's not that complicated. Shy wrote, I get it all the time and it pisses me off every time. But it's very simple to say, no, actually I'm black. My dad's black, or actually I'm black. Both my parents are black. Maybe my mom, matter of fact, my mom has gone through it. Do you know that my mother, there was a teacher at my mom's school, I'm not going to say the name. And when my mom, I believe, was getting ready to retire. Oh, see, Cuzzo just said my grandma was blonde, blue eyes. So it came from your side as well. Maybe those features just didn't come out in you. Very simple to explain. Just like you just explained, my grandma was blonde hair, blue eyes. And that's where it came from. Now, my mom, going back to her, she was getting ready to retire at school. And I remember this teacher, she went up to my mom and she's like, wait, like she had this moment. She said, wait, you're black? So it's people get it all the time. And I don't think it took my mom a long time and told her, sit down. It's going to take a while for me to explain why I'm black. Very simple. All right, let's keep going. Hold on.
About what, the 1/8 rule?
A drop.
You want, right.
Hold on. Hold on, Kamala. Hold on, Kamala. And this is where I say, look at Candace's face. This was the point where I realized where my percentage, as far as, let's say I was maybe around 30 to 40% that Kamala's lying. This is when it went up to 60 to 70%. Kamala Harris, to just like, imagine somebody asking you if you're black and you start talking about the 1/8 rule, the 1 drop rule. Like, wait, what are we talking about? So your mom was raising two proud black women, you and your sis, two proud black young ladies. And now you're referencing the 1/8 rule, but your dad's black, right? So that would be at least half or a quarter, at least a quarter, right? Because your dad's black. I mean, that's what you kind of always pushed on us. Why? Let me ask you this question. Why would, if I'm 1/8 black, then why would my mother, and let's say I'm 1/8 black and then some Irish, or the rest is European. Let's just say that. European and maybe Indian. Why would my mom and dad raise me as a proud black son? Why would they not raise me as a proud Indian son or a proud European son if I'm only an 1/8 black? I don't know. And I'm pretty sure when it's like most things, when it's in your best interest to be Indian, I'm going to lean into that. In your best interest to be European, I'm going to lean into that. So there's just certain things that, maybe your mom hated the Indian side or hated the other side and just said, no, you're black. You're black. I married your daddy. Your daddy's black. Your dad is, I don't know. But it just sounds a little iffy to me.
You want to talk about what it means in terms of who you are perceived to be and the impact that can have on the rest of your life, regardless of who you actually are in terms of your God-given capacity and the rights that you have and should have. So, I don't mess with that. I think that's other people trying to figure some stuff out that they got some issues.
So are you don't mess with it, but you just gave a full explanation, but you could just tell us, like, my dad's black, I'm black. End of story. There's something here. There's something here.
Wow. So she just doesn't answer the question at all, right? So before we had her really leaning into being black. Now all of a sudden she doesn't even mess with that. I don't mess with that. I don't even mess with that. They need to go to therapy. She's pulling this Freudian technique. Obviously, I've spoken to you about Freud, who was a disgusting human being who essentially gaslit women who were actually being abused by their fathers. So what she's doing is this exact same Freudian technique of gaslighting people by being like,
that's exactly what she's doing. And I'm not sure. So this is something that I haven't really dove deep into, but apparently her parents, I know her dad, well, it's believed that her dad, a lot of people have said that her dad comes from a Marxist communist background. And apparently a lot of those people like changed their names, changed their identity. And this may be something that her family was doing. I don't know.
Like, actually,
let's move on to the next as much as I would love to just watch this whole show, like I told y'all, we got to move on. I want to show y'all this clip. You let me know.
Does Kamala keep doing this, like acting like she grew up in the 40s and in the 50s with these sorts of memories? And then I remembered suddenly, she was born. I want to talk about great grandma Iris Finnegan. What is up with her in the 40s and in the 50s with these sorts of memories? And then I remembered suddenly that she did this on stage a while ago, where she got almost teary-eyed and emotional talking about busing and desegregation. I'm going to roll that back for you just to jog your memory. Take a listen.
You also worked with them to oppose busing. And there was
Joe.
a little girl in California
Uncle Joe.
who was part of the second class to integrate her public schools. And she was bused to school every day. And that little girl was me.
Okay.
Kamala's greatest moment.
So you watch that clip, okay? You're an American. You see she's getting a little choked up, and you can instantly assume that what she means is that she was like a Ruby Bridges. Yeah, like that little girl was me in second grade. I was a part of the second class to be desegregated. Like that instantly signals, given the emotionality of it, that she was a Ruby Bridges. Talk about mining Black history. Well, let me be clear. She intentionally misled people here to make them believe that she was a young Ruby Bridges. This is how disgusting and despicable this woman is. She wanted people to go back in their minds to all they learned about Ruby Bridges, the images of Ruby Bridges having to be protected by police as she entered into that school in Louisiana. She wanted people to go back in their minds to that. That's why she's getting all choky. She's like on the brink of tears. That little girl. So to be perfectly clear here, that little girl went to Thousand Oaks Elementary School in Berkeley, and far from that impression she's giving, she did not live through any desegregation or any real desegregation at all, because as I mentioned, the schools had already gone through that before she was born, literally before she was born in 1947. In fact, the school district had to issue a statement after that performance on stage. And this is what they had to.
Yo, this is wild. This is wild. And you know what it says to me? This is what I said this before. The majority, it says a lot about the voters. How a politician tries to appeal to you says a lot about you. The same way that if you go into a car dealership, women get treated differently than men. Women that come in without a man get treated differently. When somebody's trying to sell you a car, their technique and how they talk to you, how they approach you, just how the dynamic of the conversation is going to be based on who they think you are. They're going to use a particular technique. If they think you're ignorant, they're going to use a technique that they would use for, like, yo, we could take advantage of this person. Oh, we got a young girl coming in. Yo, I got this one. I'm going to convince her to pay so much for so little. And if you think I'm lying, I don't know. Go try to buy a car just by yourself and then have another man go in there and you'll see the difference. So it's the same concept when it comes to the politicians. The politicians that are looking to appeal to you, notice how they try to appeal to you. Notice how they're trying to sell their product to you based on what type of consumer they see you as. I've said it time after time. These Democrats, they think that their Democratic supporters are stupid, ignorant, naive. They think that they can say certain things to their base to win over a group of people because they think that that particular group of people is ignorant, and they think that they can say certain things that people will never go back and fact check, never look into, and it'll just pass as that's the word. That's the word. And this is what's happening when you look at how the Republicans try to appeal to their base compared to how the Democrats try to appeal to their base. We show y'all all the time. We're getting ready to show Lil Scrappy. He'll tell you. It says a lot about how they think about us. It says a lot. And another example, Joe Biden saying, you ain't black unless you vote for me. He would never tell somebody Jewish that. He would never tell somebody Indian that or any other culture. You ain't Jewish unless you vote for me. Like, I'm not answering no more of your questions. Y'all know what, you ain't Jewish. Imagine. But it comes across very clearly in how they see us based on how they're trying to appeal and sell their product in order to get us to support them.
Had to put up on their website for clarification. They wrote, there has been some confusion in the media and social media around the Berkeley schools and integration due to the fact that our high school was already integrated, as evidenced, for example, by high school yearbooks, which show children of many race and ethnicities at school together prior to 1968. In Berkeley, we only have one comprehensive high school, so it was integrated by default. Our elementary schools, however, reflected the racial composition of our neighborhoods, which, like many neighborhoods across America, reflected the history of segregation stemming from policies which restricted the opportunities of non-white residents. So then they go on, we recently celebrated the 50-year anniversary of our voluntary busing plan, and you can find additional details here. So let me clarify to you what actually happened in her childhood. There was no desegregation effort that she had to live through. She was not Ruby Bridges. Rather, what they realized was because of the past in which you had Black people all living in one neighborhood, and this was contributed sometimes because of like red line districting. You had Black people living in one neighborhood, you had white people living in one neighborhood. What ended up happening was that you had schools which were like majority Black and which were majority white. And so what they wanted to do in Berkeley was to be the first to offer a busing plan to turn that around so that the buses would pick up students that lived far from the white school and bring them over there so that the schools would be more evenly mixed. That's what she's describing. So after they put...
I think we saw this. I don't know if y'all have ever seen the NWA movie when Cube is on the bus and he's going to his school. So I think that's kind of similar to what she's describing. I'm not. And
implemented this busing plan. Kamala was the second or third class since they had implemented this busing plan. Nothing to do with desegregation, just an effort to say, okay, we're realizing now if people are just districted according to where they live, you're going to have these schools that are like 85% Black and some schools that are 85% white. That's what it is. So just thinking about the emotionality and how tricky she's being here, again, trying to allude to like.
So y'all get what my understanding is. It's almost like you have a Black town because, of course, all the other issues that may have gone into making this town Black or making this town white. But the school was not a whites only school. The school just reflected the people that lived in the community. If I go to Livingston High School right now, or Glen Ridge High School, not a lot of Black kids at those schools. I'm not gonna go there in 2024 and say, like, if they start saying like, hey, you know, we're allowing other kids throughout the district or whatever it is. I did not desegregate that school. Like the school was not a white only school. It's just most people that lived in that town are white. But she's trying to make it seem like, just like Candace Owens says, like she's this Ruby Bridges type. And it sounds so silly, and it almost is silly for us to even talk about, but it's just like, why are you trying so much to dramatize this story, to emotionalize this story, just to appeal to a particular group of people in order to make you seem like more of a hero than you are, when you're just lying? Like you are at the very least, you are misleading people. And to be honest, it's worked, because that was 4 years ago, when she was debating against Joe Biden to see who would become the nominee from the Democratic Party. And nobody has questioned it since. So maybe it did work. Maybe it did work. All right, I want to show you one more clip from here, and then we're going to move on to something else. All right, here we go.
I'm going to have to just go through this calmly, because I am telling you, as a Black person, it's actually offensive how hard she tried to Blackify herself. And it made me think of the entire Emmanuel Macron, Brigitte Macron scandal, because the journalist that broke that story essentially said that what they do when they're running is they publish a book, and that is the legend that is established, essentially, because people in their minds think, oh, well, if it's in a book and a publisher agreed to publish it, HarperCollins published this book about Kamala, they must have fact-checked this, and all of this must be true. People have this wrong perception that if a book is published as nonfiction, that there was some effort of due diligence, which means that everything that you're reading is not fiction. So they do this, like it's like a rite of passage. I'm publishing this book, and I'm expecting everyone to just accept this as the legend of Kamala Harris. I'm going through these pictures, okay? And aside from Iris, aside from Beryl, she also decided to include some other, what I would describe as noteworthy pictures of herself. Like this one, where she writes, "Sporting my fro, summer of 1970. But basically, you just know when you go through this that they essentially sat down as a team and were like, we're creating the legend. We need you to be Black. Okay, this was published again in 2019. And they're like, we need that Black book. Let's make it easy. Give me the blackest photos of you that you can possibly find. Like, to put the caption of her afro is just signaling to Black people, hey, I'm Black, which is ridiculous because there's so many other races that have afros.
I can't wait till I show you this next clip, because I think this is the next clip that I'm getting ready to show you is the one where the show got cut off on Wednesday. And everything has been racialized. Everything is black, white, but it's just interesting to see how people are using it. I've told y'all plenty of times, man, my people, it ain't Black people. When I say my people, that's just me. I'm not talking about black people. I'm talking about people that align with my morals, principles, values, and integrity, period. Period. That's how I see the world, because the reason why I say that is because I've been completely misled when I get caught up in the whole black versus white thing and getting caught up in, oh, you got to stand on this because you're black. It's completely misleading. And to me, it's not godly. To me, it's fighting racism with more racism. When you just make decisions based on somebody's race, it just is what it is. Now, what did I also say before? I think that racism is natural. I think that it's one of the most natural things in the world. People are going to look out for themselves first. People are going to look out for themselves first, and people that are in their communities, and most of the people that we're around are people that look like us. It just is what it is for the majority of people. We talked about it last show where we said that's why most crime is committed against that particular group. Black people commit crimes against black people. White people commit crimes against white people, because those are the people that are in your communities. When we go to this next video, after we'll give this maybe about 15 more seconds, but when we go to this next video, it's going to get interesting.
Puerto Ricans have afros. Spanish people have afros. Jewish people have afros. Mark, my director, is Jewish. He has an afro, okay? It is not like proprietary to black people, but she's publishing this because like you're just supposed to look at the picture and go, oh, well, she's got an afro. I guess she's black. She literally wrote that, okay? Then, of course, if you can imagine this team sitting down trying to process how to sell black, you would go, well, Harlem. Right? You got to put some pictures of Harlem here. And there are pictures of her in Harlem. Look at this photo. She just posts up right here, visiting my Uncle Freddie in Harlem. Harlem was always a magical place for me. Now, what's interesting about this picture is the man behind, I don't know if that's actually her Uncle Freddie, right? Like that came to my mind. I'm like, is this?
So it's just more of this. Candace is frying her the whole time. And it's calling out a lot of aspects to it. There's a few other pictures like this at some jazz clubs where she's referring to people as her uncle, her auntie, and these are her mother's friends. Cool. We call, our parents, moms, auntie, parents, dads, uncle. It's all good. But when it comes to a lot of these things with Kamala, it just seems that they're reaching so much to make her appeal to be more black. Why? Because being a victim, it's like you ever had like a conversation where it's almost like it's like a pissing contest where people start saying like, yo, I had to go through this growing up. And then somebody else, yo, I had to go through this. And everybody like builds up their story. It's like the fishing story. Like, yo, how big was the fish? It was like this big. You know what I mean? Everybody tries to exaggerate the struggles and the challenges that they faced in order to make themselves seem greater, as if they were able to overcome certain challenges and obstacles. So you got to make the obstacles and challenges even bigger to make ourselves look bigger, because we were the ones that conquered these challenges. So that's what I feel like is going on. I want to move on to the next video. So this next video that I'm going to show y'all, we're going back to Byron. We're only going to show a short clip because I don't want the Breakfast Club messing with me and trying to take down this stream. Ew, it's Dak. Just want to thank you for checking out our video and visiting the OG Network. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure that you give us a like. And if you're looking to join a community of inspired individuals striving for purposeful abundance, subscribe. And if you're feeling real generous, share the video with some friends and family. All right, I'll see y'all soon. Ew.